Hello, everyone. On behalf of the Real Estate Council of Alberta, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of you and thank you for taking time out of your day to join us for our information session about getting licensed. As you can see from the agenda, we'll be covering a lot of information today. Due to the large number of attendees, the chat feature is disabled and all participant microphones will remain muted for the duration. When we have concluded our presentation, feel free to ask us any general questions by inputting them into the Q&A dialog box. We'll respond to as many questions as we can before wrapping up in about an hour. Today's presentation provides general information about eligibility, education, and licensing requirements and processes. If you have questions about your specific circumstances, we ask that you contact the Registration Services team by phone or email during regular business hours to discuss them. Our contact information will be provided at the end of the presentation. We'll be emailing a copy of this presentation and a recording of the information session to all participants. With that, let's get started. All members of the Registration Services team are RECA brand ambassadors, and we strive to embody RECA's values. We aim to protect, inform, and elevate through all of our day-to-day interactions with applicants and licensees. Our goal is to surpass RECA's service excellence principles as we carry out our important function of vetting applicants and their credentials. RECA licenses and regulates three distinct but related industries within Alberta: real estate, mortgage brokerage, and condominium management. Anyone who provides these services to consumers in Alberta must be licensed through RECA. An often overlooked but important distinction to make is that property management and condominium management are different areas of practice. In fact, property management is a sector within the real estate industry. Condominium management is a separate industry altogether. If you want to be licensed in one of these industries, you've come to the right place. There are three primary phases in the path to getting licensed: the eligibility phase, the education phase, and the licensing phase. Depending on your circumstances, you may have to complete all the steps in the education phase, some of these steps, or none of them. We'll cover all the information you need to know about the three phases as we get further into the presentation. Before you get started in the first phase, eligibility, we recommend that you carefully review the eligibility requirements that are applicable to your circumstances and ensure you can meet them, as your application fee is non-refundable. If you have determined that you meet the eligibility requirements for your particular circumstances, you can get started by creating a MyRECA account and completing the first-time login process. The answers you provide in the first-time login process will guide you to the correct eligibility or labor mobility application. Complete the relevant application and pay the application fee. Once you have completed payment, you can begin uploading your identification documents. Contact any third parties that will need to send documents to us on your behalf. The first phase you must complete in your path to getting licensed is the eligibility phase. You must meet certain eligibility requirements before you can enroll in and complete pre-licensing education or have your non-Alberta license recognized through labor mobility. We'll cover these requirements in depth over the next several slides. It's important to note that there are different requirements depending on your path. Let's dig in. All applicants must meet the first eligibility requirement, which is to provide proof of their identity and ability to work in Canada. RECA is mandated to protect consumers and the integrity of the industries we regulate. Registration specialists employ rigorous identification measures to ensure RICA achieves its mandate. The first identification document that all applicants must provide is a profile photo. Your profile photo should be clear, face-centered, and should not obscure your identity. Keep in mind your profile photo will be visible to RICA staff and your future broker. The second identification document applicants must provide is a copy of source identification, such as a birth certificate, PR card, or proof of Canadian citizenship. This document contains your full legal name and is the name that will appear in your MyRICA account and on your future license. If your source identification document does not contain a first name, your MyRICA account and future license will not include a first name either. You cannot substitute a passport for the source identification document. Passports do not always contain a person's full legal name. Applicants must also provide a copy of one piece of government-issued photo identification, such as one of the documents listed in 1C. If you've had a different legal name previously, you must disclose this in your application and provide proof of this name. The second eligibility requirement that all applicants must meet is proof of English proficiency. Licensees must be able to practice proficiently in Alberta's official language. RICA's minimum English proficiency standard is successful completion of English 30 in high school or equivalent. If you completed your education in Canada, you can request your high school, college, or university to send your transcript directly to RICA. If you didn't graduate high school but received your GED, you can request Alberta Education to send it to us. If you completed your education outside of Canada, you can have your international high school, college, or university transcript assessed by a member of the Alliance of Credential Evaluation Services of Canada and sent directly to RICA. Not all members of ACESC include the language of instruction in their assessments. Your assessment must state that the language of instruction for your course or diploma or degree program was English. If you're unable to provide a Canadian education transcript or an assessment of your international education, you can have your English assessed by one of the institutions listed. There are minimum scores that you must meet for each of these tests, and your test must have been completed within the past 3 years. The third eligibility requirement, proof of completion of a minimum of high school or equivalent, applies to new licensees only. If you hold a license in another Canadian province or an international jurisdiction outside of Canada, this requirement does not apply to you. If you are a new licensee applicant, not a labor mobility applicant, and you completed your education in Canada, you can request your high school, college, or university to send your transcript directly to RICA. If you didn't graduate high school but received your GED, you can request Alberta Education to send it to us. If you completed your education outside of Canada, you can have your international high school, college, or university transcript assessed by a member of the Alliance of Credential Evaluation Services of Canada and sent directly to RICA. The fourth and final eligibility requirement applies to labor mobility applicants only. If you're licensed in another jurisdiction within Canada or hold a license abroad, you must provide proof of licensure in good standing. Your licensing history must be sent by the regulatory body in your originating jurisdiction directly to RICA, and it must include your disciplinary history. Once all required supporting documents have been received for your eligibility or labor mobility application, your application is complete and will be automatically submitted to our processing queue. The Registration Services team processes applications in the order they are received. We receive between 150 and 200 completed eligibility and labor mobility applications every week. This is in addition to the dozens of other applications we receive, along with managing consistently high call and email volumes daily. You can help the Registration Services team review and process incoming applications and respond to calls and emails in a timely manner by viewing the status of your application and required supporting documents in your MyRECA account instead of contacting us for updates. Once your application is complete and has been submitted to our processing queue, you can expect an email with the outcome of our review within the next several business days. You can view our current processing times on the MyRECA login screen or on the My Applications page of your MyRECA account. Much like the eligibility requirements, the education phase differs depending on your circumstances. New licensees that are not licensed in another jurisdiction must complete pre-licensing education and exams before they can apply for their license. Canadian labor mobility applicants are exempt from pre-licensing education and exam requirements. International labor mobility applicants are exempt from pre-licensing education but must successfully complete the related exams. All pre-licensing education courses must be completed through a recognized course provider. Pre-licensing exams are developed by RECA and administered by our partner, Pearson VUE. Please refer to the step-by-step licensing guide that is applicable to your circumstances. Once you have completed the first two phases, the eligibility phase and the education phase, you're ready to move on to phase 3, licensing. If you haven't already, you'll want to meet with a few brokers to find a brokerage that is a fit for you and get your criminal record check, or CRC, underway. When you have found a brokerage and we have received and processed your CRC, your broker will initiate your licensing application for you through MyRECA. The entire licensing process is completed online, and provided there are no suitability matters that the registrar needs to review, your license will be issued automatically in a few simple steps. As a first-time licensee in Alberta, you must provide a current criminal record check, or CRC, to be eligible for licensing. Your CRC must be less than 6 months old at the time you apply for your license. When you're ready to apply for your license, complete the digital CRC application through your MyRECA account. We'll get the results in a couple of days from our partner, Mintz Global Screening, and we'll email you when we've received and processed it. All first-time licensees must demonstrate that they are of good character and are suitable for licensing. Certain events that have taken place in the past may bring your character into question. Events such as bankruptcies, discipline, criminal charges and convictions, and certain civil judgments must be disclosed at the time of licensing and could impact your ability to get a license. If you're concerned about something in your past that may impact your suitability for licensing, you may request an opinion from the registrar as to your suitability. This is called a suitability review. If you choose to undertake a suitability review, your eligibility application fee includes this. We do not recommend that labor mobility applicants request a suitability review. The intention of a suitability review is to avoid the significant financial and time investment in completing pre-licensing education and exams prior to applying for and being refused a license due to suitability concerns. We've included a comprehensive list of resources to assist you along your journey to getting licensed. We've also included our contact information should you need help along the way. As mentioned, we'll email this presentation to you when we've concluded our Q&A session so that you can refer back to this page or any page in the presentation at any time. That concludes our presentation on getting licensed. Thanks for sticking with us. We'd like to take a moment to find out what kind of applicant you are. Please respond to the poll we've initiated and then post any questions you have in the Q&A dialog box. We'll give you a few minutes to respond to the poll and enter your questions before we begin responding.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for attending the webinar tonight. My name is Nancy. I work at Registration Services at RECA. Joining me today is Rachel. She'll be answering some of your questions live. And Scott's in the background. He'll be manning the chat. So some of your questions might be addressed in that way. As a reminder, we're handling all of the questions through that chat. So if you have any questions, please pop them in there rather than raising your hand. So without further ado, let's take the first question. Can I start my training while I wait for my PR status? If not, can I work at an agency in an admin role without being qualified as a real estate agent while I wait for my PR status to start my training? Yeah, you can work wherever your work permit permits you to work. We don't have any say over that. So if you qualify for a job as an administrator, you absolutely could do that. It doesn't, the person who hires you would be in charge of making sure you don't conduct any licensed activities without a license. In terms of starting your training while you wait for PR status, you cannot currently start your training until your eligibility has been approved. And we aren't currently letting people proceed with their work permit. However, that policy is currently under review, so that could be changing in the future. I would suggest watching the Getting Licensed page on our website. We will update the guide if and when that changes. It wouldn't be like within the next month or so, but we are reviewing it currently.
Perfect. Okay. Hello, I'm Rachel. I'm going to take some questions as well. Okay, so the next one, well, it's long and it might just kind of be that it's a personal situation and you might just need to email us about this. But so I completed my higher education more than 25 years ago, grade 12 diploma. Do I still need to request my graduation established or my school to send my qualifications directly to RECA? They might not actually have digital records of my qualification. I mean, I guess it depends where you went to school. So if you went to school in Canada, then yes, we would need to receive your transcripts directly from the school or school board. It depends what province you graduated from. It sounds though from the second part of your question that you may have gone to school somewhere else. And if that's the case, then you would need to get that foreign credentials assessed. And that's where the credential assessor or assessment services, where an organization that does that, where that comes into play. But yeah, we do need record, or I guess for you to provide proof that you at least went to high school. And that's just the minimum requirement. So you could also provide proof of your post-secondary education if you took that. And then the second part of your question is about coming, I guess, from becoming an international labor mobility applicant, which we do take. So the second part is the South African government institution regulating the real estate industry is extremely slow. If I request them to send my qualification as a full status agent, it could take more than a year for them to action the request. again, yeah, this could be kind of a, like email us with your personal situation, but if you do wish to go through that labor mobility path, then we would need to receive proof of your license from South Africa. So I guess you just need to decide if you wish to go through the education eligibility path and take education here, or go through that labor mobility path. But again, you can always if you have more questions, just shoot us an email at registration@rica.ca, and we can definitely answer anything that you have.
Cool. Next question. How much does it cost for the eligibility assessment for a mortgage broker? The eligibility application fee is $350. That's for somebody in any industry. Once your eligibility is approved, you're going to pay for courses. You pay for those directly to the course provider. They're listed on our website under pre-licensing education. You're going to write an exam for each course. That's $235. You pay that to Pearson VUE, who is the exam facilitator. And then you're going to have to pay for your license. So the $350 is just for that eligibility application. And that's the first step. Your eligibility has to be approved before you can enroll in any of the courses.
Okay, next question. Do I need a license for listing houses on my business site and to market them? That would probably be a better question for our information services department. Yeah, registration services. We don't really deal with the like nuances of what you can and can't, I guess, do with a license. So yeah, I would suggest you can email info@rica.ca, or I guess give them a call. Extension 4?
I'm not sure which one
right?
it is.
I know,
either.
I don't know. Yeah. Just call Rica. There is like an automated thing at the start that'll tell you what extension information services is, and they'll be able to answer that question for you.
Okay, next question. Can you please repeat what education is needed for labor mobility? I'm not really sure what you mean here. So if you're applying for labor mobility, you don't have to provide proof of whatever level of education you have. You have to provide a licensing history, because your license in Alberta is based on your license in your current jurisdiction. In terms of the courses for getting licensed, if you're a labor mobility applicant who's currently licensed somewhere else in Canada, you're exempted from Alberta's pre-licensing education and from writing the exams. If you're applying for labor mobility and you're licensed outside of Canada, you're exempted from taking the courses, but you do have to pass the pre-licensing exam. You get one attempt to pass the exam, and if you don't pass it, then you do have to go enroll in Alberta's courses and then retake the exam.
Good call. I forgot about that when I talked about international labor mobility. Okay. Next one. What is the recommended level of CELPIP test? So a CELPIP, yeah, it's a type of English proficiency test. I mean, all those details are on the eligibility guide. But the level, I mean, CELPIP general is the one that we need. There are other ones where we require an academic level of test. Yeah, I would recommend just looking at that guide and making sure that the test that you're taking is the correct one, and just make sure that you're checking those minimum score requirements, and so that you meet them and can qualify for English.
Yeah, maybe I'll just pull that up here. Give me 1 second. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Sorry, I lost you. Okay, so you can find the guide Rachel's talking about on our website. This is our homepage. If you scroll, oh, they've moved the website. Here, become a licensee. And you come down here to new licensees. And you'll find the guide right here, the guide to applying for eligibility for first-time licensees. And this is where you're going to find all of the information about the various eligibility requirements, including here on page 8, it lists the different English proficiency tests that we'll accept and what the score is required. So a CELPIP general, you have to have a score of 7. Okay.
I want to take the next one. You want me to take a question?
Oh, yeah, take another one. I have to find my window.
Sure. Sounds good. Okay. How many courses are included in the education process? Well, I guess generally there is 2. Yeah, that's the minimum number of courses you can take for each industry. So yeah, real estate, mortgage, condominium management. They'll each have a fundamentals course, and then real estate has 4 sectors that you can, I guess, choose from to take at least one of those practice courses, just depending on what sector or which area of real estate you wish to practice under. And then mortgage, yeah, it's the practice of mortgage broker, whatever, that you'd have to take. And then condominium management, it's a bit different. There's a graduated license program, and but again, same thing, fundamentals of condo, practice of condo, for you to become eligible for licensing.
Okay, are protected persons eligible? So I'm not really sure what you mean by protected persons. To be eligible, you have to meet our basic eligibility requirements. So you have to be a permanent resident or Canadian citizen. You have to have a Canadian high school graduation or equivalent. And I'm forgetting something. You have to provide proof of English proficiency and just some photo ID. So as long as you can meet all of those requirements, you would be eligible to complete the pre-licensing education.
Yeah, and I think by protected persons, it's a class, I guess, of it's a refugee status. And unfortunately, if you are under a work permit, then right now the policy just is that you cannot apply for eligibility or get licensed under a work permit right now. But yeah, it may change. So we will see. Again, if you have personal questions like that, you can always email us. Okay. Can I send my WES evaluation before submitting my eligibility review? So we don't pre-assess, I guess, any documents. So whether that be a transcript, a credential assessment, we do require you to apply for, so I guess first create a MyRECA account, apply for that eligibility application, pay the $350 fee. Unfortunately, the presentation said, that fee is non-refundable once we do review the documents in there. Yeah, so I guess there is just kind of a process to it. You do need to apply for eligibility first, then submit any documents that you have, and then we'll review those documents.
Next question, does RECA provide education or must you take the course from an approved provider? RECA does not offer courses. We have approved course providers who offer the courses, and then you come and write RECA's exam. So I'm going to take you back to the website again. If you hover on this licensees and learners tab at the top, a big menu opens, and over here under education, you'll find pre-licensing education. And in this section, the courses are all broken down by industry. So if you wanted to pursue a real estate license, you'd click on this section, and then it lists each of the courses along with a list of the course providers who offer each course. And then you'll see these are links. So that links to the course provider's website, and that's where you go to enroll in and pay for the course.
Perfect. Is it possible to study and complete the real estate courses completely online, or do I have to do it by attending in-person courses? As far as I'm aware, most, if not all of the courses are online and self-directed studies. That would be, I guess we do have a credentialing department in RECA. They might be a better person to ask a question like that. But yeah, it is definitely possible to study and complete the courses online. I guess there is, as Nancy was saying, there are exams at the end of it. Those, I believe, generally you would have to go to an exam, like in-person exam center. There may be exceptions for that. And
They,
again,
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but they
oh, that's
actually have both. They have
oh,
online proctored and in-person exam
hey, there you go. They
options.
still have those. Perfect. Thanks. It's like, I don't know if that's like, COVID is just stopped those, but yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Okay, next question. I'm 17 years old and eager to start my journey as soon as possible. What can I do from here? You can get a copy of the guide from our website where I showed you before. Start to gather your identification. Make sure you have a copy of your birth certificate or citizenship certificate, PR card. All you can do is really prepare. You aren't able to create a MyRika account or start an eligibility application until you turn 18. So you could start to gather the documents. You can't send us your proof of education directly. It has to be sent directly from your school or the company that assesses your credentials to Rika. So you wouldn't be able to send that to us until you've started an application. So you're kind of in a holding pattern for a bit, unfortunately.
Okay, can you please speak to the work experience requirement post-licensing? If I would like to manage properties independently, do I have to work at a brokerage as a property manager for 2 years? Yes, I mean, again, there is some nuances, I suppose, with real estate or yeah, with licenses, but to like it, I guess your question, it kind of leads me towards you want to be a property management broker. And in that case, you do need to be a property management associate, or I guess a real estate associate licensed in property management for at least 2 years of the last 5 years. I guess right now to be a broker, you do need to have courses in all four sectors. You also need to complete the real estate broker program. Yeah, and then just that experience. So unfortunately, I guess, yeah, it's not like there are nuances, like I said, to a license, but for you to be a property management broker, there are further requirements.
Okay, next question. Is it mandatory to complete the practice course before working with a broker, or is the fundamentals course sufficient to begin gaining practical experience? So the answer to that depends on what industry you're looking to get licensed in. Rika manages 3 industries: real estate, mortgage brokerage, and condominium management. For real estate and mortgage brokerage, you cannot work until you have a license, which requires you to take a fundamentals course and that area of practice course, provide a criminal record check, then you're eligible for a license. Whatever broker hires you will help you get your license, and then you'll be able to work. It's a little different for condominium management. Rachel referenced this earlier. There's a graduated licensing program for condominium managers. So in that case, your first step would be to complete the eligibility application and provide a criminal record check. You're immediately eligible for what we call a level 1 graduated license. You're limited in the activities that you can carry out with that license, and your broker, the person who hires you, has to agree to hire you with a graduated license. So in that case, you do the criminal record check and eligibility, you'd get hired, your broker would get you that level 1 license, and then you'd be able to work under supervision while you work on completing your fundamentals course. Once you pass that fundamentals exam, you'd go up to a level 2 graduated license. That would allow you to conduct more activities than you could before. Once you pass the licensing course for the practice of condominium management, then you would have a full license and you'd be able to do licensed activities without supervision. But that condominium management is the only industry that offers that graduated licensing program.
Okay, I have an international degree which is not assessed yet and a valid IELTS with 7 band. Do I need to assess my credential? Yes, so I guess those two like the education assessment that can meet both your education and your English proficiency requirements. But that IELTS English proficiency test, those only meet the English proficiency requirements. So to meet the education minimum standards, yes, like we said, the minimum standard is a high school diploma. If you have an international degree, perfect, but you do need to get that assessed by one of the international credentials of assessment evaluation services. That I can never remember that whole whatever acronym or whatever, but again, yeah, it's in the guide, it's on the website.
Do you want me to pull it up again?
Sure.
Here's the proof of education page.
Alliance of Credential Evaluation Services of Canada.
Yeah, so when you download your guide, the link is live and you'll see it takes you to this page. So these are the various agencies from which we will accept a credential evaluation.
Perfect.
Okay, next question. Is applying for the eligibility process always the first step, or is there any external or internal courses you feel would be beneficial that it can be completed or started prior? No, there's no courses we would recommend. So the courses that are required for your license are the most relevant to the work that you're going to do. Many people have business degrees and all kinds of things that they bring to the table with them. But there's nothing in particular that we would recommend over and above the pre-licensing education.
Do I need to find a broker / company before I start the training / schooling portion? No, there's no requirement for that. So yeah, like the steps is to become eligible for schooling. Once you're eligible, you would enroll in those courses. You complete the courses, then I guess you would apply for a criminal record check, and then once all that's complete, then you'd be eligible for licensing. That's where a broker would add you as an associate. I mean, you can certainly speak to brokerages and like companies before, but the broker won't be able to add you as an associate and actually give you a license, initiate that licensing application until you're actually eligible for licensing.
So two really related questions. So I'm going to kind of answer them both at the same time. Any advice on getting hired at a brokerage or vetting brokerages for a good fit? And how competitive is the industry when it comes to securing a brokerage to work with? So this is very out of scope for RECA. We actually, we're the licensing regulator, but we don't assist people with attaining employment. So we don't really have any insight into what's involved in getting hired or how competitive it is or anything along that line. So you might want to reach out if the area you're interested in getting licensed in has a professional association of some sort. Off the top of my head, real estate licensees belong to the Alberta Real Estate Association. Mortgage brokers can belong to the Alberta Mortgage Brokers Association. Condo, I'm not sure off the top of my head what it's called. So maybe do some Googling and try to find organizations of that sort. They might have a little bit more advice to give you in that regard.
Okay, this one may be, again, a personal situation, might need to email us, but it says, I am on PR and I wanted to know if my WES, so that's World Education Services, and IELTS results will still be acceptable. I immigrated to Canada in 2017. They have a qualification of an MBA. IELTS is a general test, which is required for immigration. I mean, okay, so the World Education Services assessment, those don't expire. So we do require either like the assessment either needs to come directly from the organization, or if you have the original document, you can get that to us. So I don't know, what it would be easier, if it's easier for you to just have your education assessed again, or if you do have the original document, bring it in to us or send it to us in the mail. But yeah, those, like I said, they don't expire. And once it's assessed, yeah, it's assessed. The IELTS results, again, I'm not certain, I guess, what, like, I guess if it is a general test that's required for immigration, then perfect. There is minimum scores though, like we've referenced before. So as long as you've met those minimum scores, then that would meet our requirements. And for English proficiency tests, you can send those to us. We could just you can send it to us in a PDF via email. So you don't need to get us the original document of that. But again, if you have questions, send us an email, registration@rika.ca.
Yeah, I'm just going to add to that. An IELTS general actually doesn't meet our requirements. We need an IELTS academic.
There we go. Perfect.
Yeah. And the minimum score on an IELTS is 6.5, but it has to be an academic assessment.
Look at Nancy go.
It's like a little test.
Yeah, right on. I failed that.
Next question. A person filed bankruptcy, can't get a realtor license at all. How does this affect this to get a license? So having a bankruptcy in your past doesn't necessarily mean that you can't get a license. However, you are required to report it to RICA, and you could do so in one of two ways. So you have the option when you create your MyRICA account, it's going to ask you if you have something like a criminal record or a bankruptcy. If you say yes, it's going to take you down a path called a suitability review. And in that case, you're going to provide documents that explain and show what happened in this case with a bankruptcy. And you'll get a written opinion from the registrar as to whether he believes you're suitable for licensing. If you get that written opinion and it says, yes, you are, then we'll send you instructions about how to start your eligibility application. A bankruptcy is typically not an issue unless there's something extraordinary about it. The other option you have is to forego the suitability review, jump right into your eligibility application, complete your education. When you go to apply for your license at the very end of that process, you're going to be asked a series of suitability questions, one of which is, have you ever had any kind of insolvency? You're required to answer yes to that question, and then we'll reach out to you at that time for the information about your bankruptcy. So you are required always to report it, but it's not necessarily going to prevent you from getting your license.
The next one, can we have the presentation emailed to us? So yes, we will email you a link with the presentation afterwards. And then that is right, Nancy? I'm telling them the right information.
I was reading, I didn't listen.
Oh, what? Sorry. they'll have this presentation will be emailed to them.
That's right. Yeah, within a couple of days, we'll get the email out to everybody who registered. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it'll also, the recording of this will also go on to the RICA, the becoming licensed.
Yeah, I can show you where that is too. So if you hover on licensees and learners and go to getting licensed and scroll down, currently this is our October webinar, but this will be updated with the recording from today as well.
Yeah, in a couple of days.
But that doesn't get them the links. So yeah, we'll email a PDF of the presentation out so that you've got those live links and you can click all the stuff you saw in the presentation. Next question. If RICA completed my education eligibility in 2021, can I continue with my education now? It's my understanding I need to complete fundamentals of real estate and practice of residential real estate for residential. Is this correct? Yes, you're correct about the courses you have to take. And possibly your education eligibility application is still valid. So I would suggest send us an email to registration@rika.ca and send it from the email address that's on your MyRICA account. And we'll go take a look and let you know if your approval is still valid or if you have to reapply.
Okay, how long does the full licensing process usually take from start to finish? That totally depends. I guess, yeah, it depends on your circumstances, on what kind of documents you need to provide to us. You know, if it's an assessment, obviously those take a little bit longer because it's like a third-party organization assessing a credential. And yeah, there's other, you know, like ID documents that we require. So whether you have those on hand or if you need to request them, then that can take a little bit longer. Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that we generally aim to process the eligibility applications generally within like 3 to 5 business days. Sometimes it can be a little bit longer. The courses, again, those are mostly are self-directed studies. The course providers, they set expiration dates on those, so they kind of give you a timeline of how long it should take you to do them. And then the end is a criminal record check, and those are fairly straightforward and fast, I guess. We have a third-party provider that we use to get those. You just apply for those online, and that takes around 48 hours generally that we receive those, and then we process those generally the same business day that we receive them. And then getting licensed, again, depends on how long your broker kind of takes to get the process done. There's a bit of a back and forth between your broker, starting the licensing application, and you would like answer some suitability questions and send that back to the broker for review and approval. So yes, long story short, it it depends. But I guess we can say that once you have completed your practice course, you do have a year to become licensed. So yeah, you can kind of take your time, I suppose, after taking that course. You have a year to become licensed.
But not too much time.
That's
your
right.
Courses expire in a year.
Because they do expire after a year. So
don't be too laissez-faire. Next question. I'm an internationally educated nurse, currently have my official transcripts in my possession. So I'm not really, we're not really here to assess everybody's individual credentials. If you want something answered about your personal situation, you need to phone or email us because we don't want everybody on the webinar to have to sit through that. In general, I can tell you we don't accept international transcripts, only Canadian transcripts. Anything from outside of Canada has to be assessed, and a copy of that assessment needs to be sent directly from the company that did the assessment to RICA, and more detail about that's in the guide.
If I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, should I provide both? You can provide whichever one you prefer. So yeah, like we've been saying, the minimum requirement is a high school diploma. If you do have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, either one or the other is fine. I guess, again, look at the guide, and you know, if one meets and one doesn't, or one's international and one's from Canada, then that could affect which one you send. But no, if they're both, yeah, like we only require one of those transcripts.
Is there a minimum required time frame that a licensee must wait between completing the course and obtaining the license? No. As soon as you finish your second course, you pass the exam, you're going to provide a criminal record check. You can do that right away. And then whatever broker agrees to hire you can immediately apply for your license. Any training or mentoring, you would have to work out with the broker. RICA doesn't offer that, but you can get your license right away.
I have an IQAS for my education abroad from England. Does that work? Likely. So that is one of the assessment services that we accept. So again, look at the guide, and as long, I guess it's from England, so that is a country that speaks English, so that would be, there would not need to be a language of instruction on that. And as long as the education meets one of our minimum requirements, then that would certainly work.
I had a level 3 license for an insurance broker for 26 years and owned a brokerage. Would that help? No, unfortunately. Licensing in another industry doesn't provide the information we need for your eligibility. So you're still going to have to provide proof of high school graduation and proof of English proficiency as outlined in the guide.
Oh, okay. How long do you have between acceptance of eligibility and starting courses? Do you feel one can work full-time in a different practice like healthcare while working on courses? So I guess as of right now, it's really like there is no timeline between acceptance of eligibility and starting courses. If the requirements change, then we would go back and assess. But when we process those eligibility applications, we do remove the expiry date from those. So yeah, there's really no time. But yeah, like I said, the requirements could change. So you may want to, once you are approved for eligibility, start courses as soon as you can. And do I feel one can work full time in a different practice while working on courses? Sure, I think a lot of people do that. They are self-directed studies online. So yeah, certainly you can work full-time, part-time while taking those courses.
Next question. Once eligible and approved for education, can we be both licensed realtor and mortgage broker? Yes, I'm not sure if you're asking about the courses or the licensing. So, but yes to both. You can complete the education and be licensed in more than one industry. So yes, I guess.
And I guess like maybe information services might be a better place to ask that question too. If like, there is what's the word? Conflict of interest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there's again lots of like nuances and stuff. So could be an information services question. Is there a minimum time requirement to complete the licensing courses? For example, is it possible to finish all the required courses within 1 or 2 months and obtain a license shortly after? There is no, I guess, no minimum time requirement. Yeah, I mean, if you can complete the courses in that short of time and feel and pass those exams, then certainly you can, once you've completed the exams and become eligible for licensing, even if it is only a couple of months later, you can become licensed right away.
We only have 6 minutes left, so I'm going to scroll a bit and look for some questions maybe that we haven't touched on yet. If your question doesn't get answered, please feel free to email us and we'll get back to you tomorrow. Registration@rika.ca is our email address. If I get a license in Alberta, can I hold a license in BC as well, or do I have to give the exam again in BC? You can be licensed in multiple jurisdictions. We talked a little bit about labor mobility for people who are licensed in another jurisdiction. So you would be doing that, but the opposite way. So if you have a license in Alberta and decide you want to get licensed in BC, you'd have to contact the BC regulator and find out how to complete the process to get licensed there. But it's very similar to the process we outlined today about labor mobility.
Okay. I'm also scrolling too. So I am from BC and currently living in Alberta. Can I get a real estate license holding a BC government ID? Yes, we see a lot of people that have they live in somewhere else, have an Ontario driver's license, BC driver's license. I think I'm understanding this question right. I'm from BC. Yeah, you certainly can provide us with another province's government ID.
I was going to answer one Scott's answering, so I'll leave that. University of Calgary indicated that they offer the necessary mortgage broker courses, but did not see them referenced on their website. So let's go to the list of education. Mortgage courses, fundamentals of real estate is AMBA and the Alberta Real Estate School. So yeah,
I
it
think
does
that was
not look
fundamentals of
like.
mortgage. Are they talking about real estate or mortgage?
Mortgage broker courses.
Oh yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So no, we don't show University of Calgary doing the mortgage courses. So I'm not sure what they're talking about. Sorry.
Yeah, there could be an update, I suppose, that we're just not aware of. That there could be a new course provider coming.
Better not be.
Maybe they just haven't been approved yet. There is,
like
a
here,
process.
Haskayne School of Business is on here, but that's a real estate course, is not mortgage. So maybe double check with the person you were talking to at the University of Calgary. Maybe they didn't understand and thought you were talking about real estate courses. That's possible. Okay, one more. You want to go, Rachel?
Sure. Okay. Okay. If Wes specifies her language of instruction was in English, does that suffice for English requirements? Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't want to say yes, but yeah, yes. So if the language of instruction is exclusively English on a World Education Services assessment or another assessment document, then yes, that as long as the education also meets our requirements, then that would also meet our English proficiency requirements.
I guess there's only two more, so we could do those.
Might as well just answer them, right?
For clarification, step one is creating a MyRika account and completing the eligibility requirements, then moving on to the relicensing course, pre-licensing courses. But yes, that's correct. You complete your eligibility application, then you enroll in the course, write the exam, enroll in the second course, write that exam, provide your criminal record check, then you're ready to get licensed.
Okay, last one. Do I have to submit transcripts by myself, or does a Canadian college have to do it directly from their end? Yes, we do not accept transcripts directly from applicants. So you would need to request that directly from the university or college, have them send that to us. Yeah.
Okay, so that's it for questions at 7:58. We're right on time. Thanks again, everybody, for attending. Again, if you have any questions that you didn't get answered today or something crops up once you get a copy of that presentation, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. The best way is for registration@rika.ca, and we'll get back to you by email, usually within the same business day. Anything else to add there, Rachel?
No, yeah, thank you for joining us at in this evening. Hope you learned some things, and yeah, maybe we'll talk to some of you at a later date.